evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition. So the MLB All-Star break is about to end, and who is the most disappointing team in baseball right now? Well, it could be the Mets, could be the Cubs, but let me talk about the Cubs first. So let me tell you something. The Cubs are 2 games below 500, right? About 7 weeks ago, 48 days ago, going into Memorial Day weekend, they were 4 games above. Man, they're playing the Dodgers, which at the time, it was not certain of who was the better team. It is now, of course. And they got swept by the Dodgers. Okay, a little bit of a rough stretch. It happened. So you're game over. You're playing against the Padres, okay? You get swept by the Padres. And that was 6 weeks ago. Now you're 2 under. And you think, okay, they're going to get it going now. All right, that was just a rough patch. They're going to get it going now. And we went through June. Didn't get it going. All of June. We went through the first week of July. Didn't get it going. And it's now the All-Star break. And you know what? They still haven't even gotten it going. And you know what baseball they've played since going into LA about 7 weeks ago? 6 games under. Baseball after that 6-game losing streak. Right after Memorial Day on May 31st. Since June 1st. 500 baseball. That's how the Cubs have played forever now. 500 baseball. The record this year is slightly below 500. So a lot of 500 baseball. And this is a team that won 97 games 2 years ago, won 103 last year, and won the World Series. And they have pretty much the same team. It is the same team. You still have Chris Bryant. You still have Anthony Rizzo. Still have Baez Russell. You still have Jason Hayward. You still have Lester Arrieta. You don't have Aroldis Chapman. Joe Madden, of course, is still the manager. It's the same kind of team, just what's different this year? Well, for one thing, their pitching is completely different. Jake Arrieta, 2 years ago, had one of the best halves in baseball history. Had an extraordinary season. You know he's not going to repeat that. Jake Arrieta had one incredibly great season. He's not a great pitcher. He might be a very good pitcher, might be a good pitcher. And last year was still good. Very good, actually. Of course, you're not going to match what he did. And this year, he hasn't been that good at all. You know, his ERA is above 4, more than twice as what it was 2 years ago. In fact, if you narrow it down and add it up, could be close to 3 times. But Arrieta's been far worse. Does not look like ace. Jon Lester does not look very good either. He's been down. And Kyle Hendricks has been hurt. Which last year he had a 2 ERA, barely. This year it's over 4. So again, a lot of guys who had very, very good years, much worse, average or even below average years. John Lackey, who got hurt last week, foot injuries on the DLs, 38 years old. I don't know how long he's going to be on the DL for. Could be a few more weeks, could be a few more months. And by the way, his ERA is over 5. And then you bring in who starts now is Eddie Butler and Mike Montgomery. So they're both kind of more long reliever type guys. You know, Mike Montgomery, he has potential as a starter, but you know, they pitch 5 or 6 innings, give or take. And then so do they, you know, their bullpen's good. I don't see a problem with it. I think it's a quality bullpen. Carl Edwards has some very good stuff. Pedro Strop's doing well once again this year. Wade Davis has not blown a save, in fact. He was the only Cubs All-Star mention, as we'll get to that in a few minutes. So, bullpen, I'd say is good. And, you know, a trade they just did today, they got Jose Quintana. And, you know, they gave up Eloy Jimenez, which, you know, was kind of bad timing. I found out about it this morning and, you know, went to the mailbox. I got my Baseball America. Been a subscriber for that for 4 years. And guess who's on the cover? Eloy Jimenez, their best hitting prospect. So, he's on the cover of that. He was a great hitting prospect. Great signing, obviously. But that's too late now. It doesn't matter anymore. So you give him up, which last year you gave Gleyber Torres. So you had both of those guys who are both top 10, maybe even top 5 prospects, and you give up Torres last year for Chapman. That works, obviously. You win a championship. When you win a championship in sports, even if you gave up a lot, and maybe you weren't quite as good 5 years down the road, nothing replaces a championship. So they're worth it. It's a huge risk that may not work. But when it does, that's great. And they won the World Series. And Aroldis Chapman's back on the Yankees. So Brian Cashman with that move, I've got to call Brian Cashman a genius. So got all that stuff and then got it all back. Even got everything back from what he got from Starlin Castro. So we got Aroldis Chapman and Starlin Castro and lost nothing. Both all-star caliber players. So great thinking. And, look, Espan's a good GM. But when you're winning, you want to make sure you're winning, whether it's for 2 more years, whether it's for 3 more years. They got Quintana for the rest of this year and the next 3 years since he has a team option. And so that's not good. So you have him locked in. The question is, how well does he do? Does he break down? Does he struggle? Is he not as good? That can happen with pitchers all the time. Or is he become a key piece in a potential dynasty? I don't know. But just saying earlier, it's crazy how they give Gleyber Torres and Eloy Jimenez for Jose Quintana and Aroldis Chapman. That's a lot. That's a risk they're willing to take. And look, I'll get to that a little bit later, but the White Sox are really doing a great job of building their farm system. Their farm system, by the end of the season, it could be the best in baseball. Really could be. Man, anyways, look, here's the thing about the Cubs. Let's get to their players. So, they had only one All-Star. That was Wade Davis. Last year, the same thing happened with Kansas City 2 years. Everyone was voting for them. Chris Bryant deserved to start. Anthony Rizzo started. Addison Russell started. And look, he did not have the best year. I didn't think he quite deserved to start. He had a good year. Really was a key contributor. Was young. I think he had well over 90 RBIs last year, 20 home runs. Definitely an all-star caliber player. Did he deserve to start? I don't think so, but obviously the Cubs were very popular last year. Most popular team. The fans were excited. They went on to win the World Series. This year, are the fans not voting? Maybe they're not as excited as a team like they were last year. That obviously showed. Bryant, he never deserved to start, was in the final vote. Did he deserve to make it? I guess so. I don't know. Lost in the final vote, so maybe the interest is down. And also, who picks the backups? Managers do. Coaches. Other players. And they, looking at the Cubs thinking, should they make it? Should they make it? They didn't think they were worthy, according to their opinion. So the Cubs are less popular. I feel like the fan base is down. And other examples, I've heard the Cubs be booed at numerous times, which this team is the defending champions, and you're 2 games below 500. You haven't had that in 108 years, and then half a season later, you're complaining when they're not as good. Which I get it. It's frustrating if you're a Cubs fan. You're expecting 100 wins in another World Series. You're expecting a dynasty. I get it. When you want one, you want more championships. One's not good enough. And I didn't watch the game, but the Cubs lost 14-3 to the Pirates on Sunday, and it was 10-0 after the first inning. So, the MLB TV package, you get condensed games. So I turned it on to the condensed game, watched it, and interesting thing what happened. Andrew McCutchen pulled the ball foul. He thought, okay, what a break. He walked him, and you know what? That same inning, he got another at-bat, that same inning, hit a home run. It was 10-0 after the first inning. And look, the Cubs fans were not happy when they finally got the last out. They cheered, sounded kind of sarcastically, like the fans are not happy with the team. They are starting to show that. Cubs fans just don't feel good about this year. This team is significantly worse. And being down 10-0, you're out of the game, and that's not it. On Saturday they lost. Arrieta blew a lead. As that showed, it's clear Arrieta is not the same pitcher. They lost a game to Tampa, 11-2 to Milwaukee. That was a bad loss. Going in that game, you're thinking, okay, let's beat the Brewers. Let's really get it close, get on a run. Didn't happen. They lost 3 out of their last 4. Including 2 and 4 the last week going in. And even you can go back 2 weeks earlier against Washington. big series. They might beat them. This could be their chance to really get back in it. And they don't get back in it. They should have lost 3, could have lost 4, and they're very lucky to win 2. They were lucky to win 2. And the Cubs all year long, you think, okay, now they're going to get it going. Is it going to be this week? Is it going to be the next week? The week after that? And this has gone on for 7 weeks now. And you know how many games they trail the Brewers by? 5.5. They're down by 5.5 games. This is real. I mean, on paper, going into the year, are the Brewers as talented as the Cubs? Not even close. Absolutely not. The Brewers are not as talented as the Cubs. Even right now, you can make the point. But do the Brewers play with more energy in the past few weeks? Or are they trying harder? Is their fan bases more engaged? Do they play with more energy? Yeah, you could say that's right. And I don't know. I don't spend any time in the Brewers clubhouse, the Cubs clubhouse. I do not know any of their media people, so I don't know for sure what's going on, but, I'm making observations. And the Brewers, right now, seem like a better team. And you know what? The Brewers went 9-2 to close out the break. The Cubs went 4-6, 4-7. So right there, when the Cubs had a chance to get it close, maybe even catch them, the Brewers just pulled further ahead. And, they've been, for a while, it's like, okay, they're 2 games back. Okay, maybe this series the Brewers will start to fall apart, and they'll catch the Brewers. And they haven't done that yet. And now, this is pretty serious. I mean, let's say the Brewers play them again, they sweep them. Maybe that takes the lead even further up. And they're 5.5 back. The Brewers actually could make it to the division. And to ask this question, are the Cubs just an average team? They might just be an average team. They might be. I mean, look at their production. They're a slow team. Who can run? Contreras can't run. Rizzo's fast for his position. He can't run. Baez can't run. Russell doesn't run. No one steals, so they're station to station. And just look at the expectations. Wilson Contreras is their catcher. He's hitting well, but I've heard his defense is awful. And Joe Madden, what he's done? He's put Rizzo at leadoff. I think John Jay's done it. Who else has done it? Did Jason Hayward do it? I don't think so. I believe Al Moore's done it. Really, everyone's bad leadoff. Man, Zobrist is way down. Zobrist is not hitting like he did last year at all, His average is way up in the 360s at times last year. He was a very good hitter last year. His average is down, so you hope he gets going. Addison Russell is hit 240, and, it's crazy. When he was in the minors, you thought he was going to be a really good hitter. Hitting, that was his strong suit, and he's never hit really above 250 in the majors. I mean, he's only 2.5 years in, just has 1 full year under his belt, so we'll see if he can start to hit really in the second half. And, Brian has not played like MVP. His RBI totals are way down. I looked it up. His runner in scoring position average when he won the MVP was 260. This year it's only 220, so that's worse. And Schwarber, who was supposed to be their key hitter, was supposed to be one of their best hitters, is hitting 170. Was sent down to AAA. He has not hit for them. That was a big concern. So you look at that. Schwarber's done nothing. You clearly missed Dexter Fowler as a leader, leadoff guy, provides the energy, just the way he plays. And yeah, you put in Al Moore. Yeah, you put in John Jay. Good for him. John Jay tied the game on a pinch hit home run a week ago against the Rays, and they won that. Jason Hayward, who has not hit like we thought he was. I've heard that he's going back to his 2012 swing when he hit 27 home runs that year. Jason Hayward's been hurt some and has not hit for the power that maybe some of us thought we would. So this team is not hitting as many home runs, are not hitting for average. No one really has a high average. Pitching's way down. Bullpen's good. If you put this team in the postseason right now, maybe they click and win the World Series if you end the season today. Anyone can. But right now, this team does not look like a World Series team. In fact, they don't look like a team that can catch the Milwaukee Brewers, who are far less talented than them. So, will the Cubs get hot? I've been saying this forever. You know what? I can't say for sure if they will or not. I'm still waiting. We'll see how they do towards the trade deadline. We'll see what the standings look like then. We'll see what they look like in mid-August. We'll see what they look like on Labor Day. I mean, I don't know. But I'm just going to keep waiting, and maybe in a little while I'll report back on that. So now, as we're finishing up talking about the Cubs, let's talk about the rest of the standings heading into the second half. So you look at the East, that division's over. Nationals have a 9.5 game lead. And look, that race should be over already. I mean, here's the problem with the Nationals. They can pitch. Gio, Strasburg, Scherzer. Okay? 3 great guys right up there in the front. We're still waiting for Tanner Roark to get it going. Okay, there you go. And Joe Ross has pitched better as of lately. First base is set. Ryan Zimmerman, all-star year. Second base is locked down. Bryce Harper. They can hit. They can hit. There's no question about that. And you know what the worst part is? They've lost Trey Turner. They've lost Jason Worth. Michael Taylor is out right now. And Adam Eaton, he tore up his knee all the way back in late April. So, looking at their lineup, they've lost pretty much all of their speed right now. They're out speed. That they have Trey Turner. I mean, I love the guy. He's been, might be the fastest shortstop in the game, best base stealer in the game. He can really hit for average. He hit 340 last year and a half a season. Trey Turner is a dynamic player. He provides the energy on offense. He can get an infield single, steal second and third. That's basically a run right there. And with their pitching staff, if you're an opposing team, you could get nervous. I mean, it could be over in the first inning depending on who's pitching that night. I mean, that's just how talented they are. And you also don't have Jason Worth right now. Clearly a great clubhouse leader. Clearly provides energy to the team. You don't have that right now. There's energy. Yet, on July 4th, a lot of guys are resting. I believe Wieters was resting. I think it was Zimmerman. I think it was all sorts of guys. I think they only had 2 starters from opening day start that game. And they put up 6 runs. Or 11 runs against the Mets. I mean, the Nationals are that talented. But the big problem is their bullpen. And here's what happened in free agency. Tried to go after Chapman. Couldn't get him. Tried to go after Kenley Jansen. Didn't get him. Tried to go after Melanson. Resigned Melanson. Didn't get him. And by the way, the guy they gave up, Felipe Rivero, is just absolutely dominant in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, that's someone they could have added. And Coda Glover has been hurt. Blake Trinan had an opportunity to save. Didn't get it done. His production's way down. Had the opportunity out against the Cubs a couple weeks ago. Blew that save. So, bullpen, I don't know who to go. The closer, that's a big concern. And, that's what cost them. Their bullpen has failed to deliver in the playoffs time and time again. I mean, Drew Storen was a very, very good regular season closer. But that Game 5, they lost that. That cost them the series. They should have won that game. And then Game 2 against the Giants in 2014, they lost the game. Storen blew it. In the other game, other guys, I think it was Matt Thornton and Aaron Barrett, guys like that, they're no longer on the team. They threw wild pitches. They blew that game in Game 4. And then last year, bullpen blew it. I mean, it was 1-1 when Scherzer came out. Bullpen was responsible for the other 3 runs. I mean, it was just, this team has gotten to the playoffs. You think they can win the World Series. The people of Washington have waited for a World Series for 5 years, and you know what? I'm starting to accept that. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it won't happen. It's harder to get than you think. It's a very hard thing to get, and what are they going to do? Are they going to get Calvin Herrera? Might have to give up some prospects. They are. And look, they've emptied their farm system by getting Adam Eaton. I did not like that trade. They emptied their farm system for 1 month of Adam Eaton. Their farm system might get significantly worse. And who knows? In 3-4 years, this team might not be very good at all. But that's another story. So, need bullpen help. They're going to win the division. I've known that for about 2 months now. They're going to win the division. Atlanta, yeah, they can hit well. It's good to have Freeman back. Maybe they can get a wild card spot. They have the exact same record as the Cubs. They're just as good as the Cubs. I doubt it. The Braves are not that good of a team this year, but they're definitely making progress. Maybe next year. The Marlins, look, they're on a 3-game winning streak, but they're playing the Dodgers. They don't really have any quality pitching. Another era of Marlins baseball. You go back to, you think, okay, they're finally be good. They're going to be good this year. They're going to be good. And then it just doesn't happen, and then they have to rebuild since whatever they're doing doesn't work. I think the Marlins are headed for another rebuild. Mets, most disappointing team in baseball this year. Harvey's been out. And when he pitched was terrible. Matz has missed about, I don't know, a month and a half. Syndergaard has not pitched in 2 months plus. DeGrom's really been their key fixture. He's been the guy of the big three that has been able to stay healthy, and he's been the best. He's had a quality year, but looking at the Mets, they're just very disappointing. All their pitchers at some point, you can name the five. Zach Wheeler, it's good to see him back. He's having a pretty good year. He missed 2 years of Tommy John surgery. DeGrom missed a good chunk of last year. Syndergaard now. Harvey had Tommy John surgery. Missed a year. Had a surgery last year. Is hurt again. Steven Matz, I think he had Tommy John surgery very early in his minor league career and missed time last year and this year. This team was built on those five guys. If those guys can stay healthy, they can win a lot of games. They're a World Series contender. And that has not been the case. And the Mets, I've heard a lot of talk of them selling. Are they going to sell Jay Bruce? I would do it. Are they going to sell Neil Walker, Asdrubal Cabrera, Curtis Granderson? The list goes on. The Mets are trying to get their farm system better, and the Phillies, forget about them. They have the worst record in baseball. So you're looking at the Central right now. Look at their records, last 10. Brewers 8-2, Cubs 4-6. So in 10 games, it went from 1.5 to 5.5. I mean, if the Cubs just play the other way around, let's see, 1.5, 0.5, 0.5, 1. They have a 2.5. They have a 2.5 game lead if it goes reversal, but that has not happened. And the Brewers, by playing very good baseball and the Cubs playing mediocre to bad baseball, all of a sudden are way ahead of the Brewers. Cardinals right there with the Cubs. Pirates half game back. I mean, they're the three teams. I mean, look, I think the Cubs are too talented. I think they will get out at some point, but the Brewers, based on those 10 games, you were waiting for the Cubs. You look at the standings. Oh, the Brewers have played 5-5, while the Cubs have played 5-5. The Cubs 6-4, the Brewers 6-4. The Brewers just hanging right with them. Playing well enough, just well enough, not going on a cold stretch. Cubs not getting hot, and they're both playing pretty good baseball. So for 20 games, 5-5, 6-4, playing a little bit above 500 baseball. You're proud of the Brewers. They're hanging in there. They're not falling apart. Where the Cubs is just not getting hot, and then Cubs play 4-6 baseball. And then the Brewers play 8-2. Bam! It's 5.5 just like that. So the Brewers, instead of waiting for the Cubs to get hot, the opposite happened. The Brewers never cooled off, and the Cubs cooled off. 4-6 baseball. And the Brewers are playing the Phillies this weekend. So looking at that, they're gonna play the Phillies this weekend. Where the Cubs, they're playing the O's. Two teams where, the O's will get to them in a minute, but I mean, I don't know. The Brewers could get even further ahead. The Brewers could very well sweep the Phillies. And then next week, you have Brewers playing the Pirates. Cubs playing the Braves. So who knows what happens there. And then at the end of the week, for the weekend, Cubs Cardinals, Brewers Phillies once again. So the Brewers, they could, Brewers playing the Pirates, they could beat them. Playing the Phillies twice. You know what that means? That means that the Brewers could go 10-0, 9-1, play great baseball, and the Cubs once again, oh, we're 5-5, we haven't gotten it going yet, and bam, it's over just like that. So keep an eye on that. On that for the next week or so, 10 days, weekend series. Just keep an eye out on that. That could be to the point where the Brewers are clearly better. So, we'll wait and see by the trade deadline. But I think the Brewers can win this division. I'm tired of waiting for the Cubs, and forget about the Reds. Very good hitting team, can't pitch. So the National League West, the Dodgers, man. Let me tell you about the Dodgers. 9-1 baseball. They are 61-29. 61-29. They're the best team in baseball. Okay? You have Clayton Kershaw. He's as dominant as usual. May get his 20 wins, barely 2 ERA, 250 plus strikeouts. Clayton Kershaw is that great. Alex Wood has been great. Hasn't lost a game, sub 2 ERA, 10-0 record. And then you go along the lines. Maeda, he's been pretty good. Okay. Ryu McCarthy's been hurt. It's terrible news, but Julio Urias is getting shoulder surgery, and look, he came up last year at 19, has a lot of potential, but look, he's lost a full season this year, lost at least a half a season next year. So that's too bad for Urias. I feel terrible for him. Kind of what's happened there, and rotation's good, bullpen's just great. Dave Roberts, he's a great manager. Showed that in the playoffs last year. He knows who to put in, who not to put in. Has all sorts of depth to use, so knows who to bat. People tend to do well. Grandol's hitting well, like that. Cody Bellinger, just he's spectacular. He can hit about as well as anyone right now. 25 home runs. There's only 21. And then Chris Taylor, he can hit. He can hit the ball out of the park. Has some good speed. He's played left, center, I believe, shortstop, second. Corey Seager hitting like usual. Justin Turner hitting 380. Yasiel Puig, showing power. I like Puig. He's having a nice year. Look, the Dodgers, they're no doubt the best team in baseball. They're going to win 100 games. They're going to be the top seed in the National League. They are the favorites they may be World Series favorites right now. And at the beginning of the year, I thought 99 wins. I don't quite buy that. I saw projections. I believe it was by Baseball Prospectus or Fangraphs, one of those sources. I was thinking, is that really true? I don't think so. 93, 95. They're going to win 100 games. They're going to win 100 games, okay? Looking at their schedule, or looking at their record, they're 61-90, so they have 72 games left to play. To win 100 games, they have to play 39 and 33 baseball. A little bit above 500. They're more than capable of it. And I don't know, it was about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, they're just 7 games above. They've played 30-6 baseball. Best team of anyone. They have been dominant. The Dodgers are going to win the division, and the D-backs played 3-7. It's over for them. They're not going to win the division. It's going to be Rockies, D-backs. And the D-backs, I give them credit. They're having a really good year. Fast team, good defensively, make some plays. Guys like Robbie Ray is pitching well. Greinke's having a nice bounce back year. This is a good team. The question is, with the back end of the bullpen, can they sustain that as they get closer to the playoffs? And the Rockies, their 9.5 back was about 3-4 weeks ago, but you thought they might win the division, and look, they just stopped hitting, played 1-10 baseball, just like that. No chance they're going to win the division. 9.5 back. Look, they stopped hitting, they stopped pitching. They had a horrible stretch. They've gotten a little bit better. They've played 5-5 since then, so they've picked it up a little bit. Going out to New York this weekend, all 3 teams, Dodgers in Miami, D-backs in Atlanta, and the Rockies in New York. That's what you have right there. Look, Blackmon's MVP candidate. Mark Reynolds having a nice bounce back year. DJ LeMahieu hitting 300 plus. The Rockies are a playoff team. The Rockies will make it to the playoffs. They will be a wild card. So, here's the thing about that Western Division. So, the Dodgers, they're going to be the 1 seed. No one has a chance to catch them. And I mean no one. Here's how it's going to play out. Rockies would play the D-backs. So, if the season ended today, one of the teams from the West Both, two are on the divisional series, and one is guaranteed to go to the league championship series. That's just how it works in the West. That's just how good the West is. And look, the Rockies pitching they just got John Gray back. Antonio Senzatella looked like a Rookie of the Year candidate at some point. He has his numbers have fallen off, has been moved to the bullpen. Pitching a little shaky. I mean, they're doing it. Bud Black is a very good pitching manager. He's good at working with pitchers. He's done a good job of keeping the pitching staff under control. Not to the point where it makes them non-competitive. And look, the Rockies can just play a little bit above 500. They've played 91 games so far. If they play 500, a little bit better, let's say they can win about 90 games, get in, they'll be fine. If they play good baseball, they'll be fine. I just don't see anyone else catching them. I do not see Milwaukee as a wild card team if they fall out. Certainly don't see the Cubs, don't see the Braves, don't see the Cardinals, just don't see anyone else. So now the American League side. Okay, so the Red Sox have a 3.5 game lead on the Yankees. The Yankees have been down, pitching's been worse. Aaron Judge at times looked like he has carried their offense. They live on the home run ball. The Yankees have gotten significantly worse. They were once 15 games over. I believe they're 35-20. I think that's right. 40-25. They now have 45 wins, 16 losses. So they have played 5-16 baseball. They have fallen apart. They just don't have quality pitching. Tanaka, he's been awful this year. CC, CC, I have a hard time. I've had a hard time trusting CC the last 3 or 4 years. He can be good at times, but he's not that lockdown ace that he used to be. And Jordan Montgomery is pitching well, but a young pitcher. He could struggle at any moment now. Pineda, I give him credit. He's having a good year, but Severino was an all-star. Their pitching at times looks quite good. Other times not so well. Tyler Clippard, once his ERA was barely over 1, is now close to 5. Have concerns there. Don't have first base. Third base is a question mark. The Yankees may be a wild card team. They're not going to catch Boston. In fact, they got a 4-game series coming up. Here are the scenarios. Red Sox sweep, 7.5 games. Yankees are now a 500 team. 6-21 baseball, or 5-20 baseball. Just like that. Bad team. Red Sox, then the division race is over. Or the Yankees could catch them. Or the Red Sox pull a little bit more ahead, or the Yankees pull a little ahead. Big 4-game series coming up this weekend. Can't wait to watch it. The how the East turns out could be a huge factor this weekend. Tampa Bay, like how they're playing. Really do. They have some good pitching. Archer's had a bounce back year. They hit a bunch of home runs by Lowen Morrison, Souza, Longoria. They have a lot of depth, especially in the field. Rays, well-run team. Kevin Cash doing a nice job. Baltimore, I don't see them. Not anymore. Their pitching's not good. Manny Machado is not hit. We've been waiting forever for him to hit. The Orioles at one point looked like a team that could win the East. That was before the Red Sox really got going, and they finally have. I don't think they're making it to the playoffs. They've played 3-7 baseball. They're not getting in this year. The Central, look, the Indians' pitching has been worse. Danny Salazar has moved to the bullpen. And look, Kluber and Carrasco have done well this year. But just the rest of it, I don't know how they do it in a short series. It's just a question mark. They may have to go out and get some starting pitching. Offense is good. We're still waiting for Lindor to get going with the bat. He's not as good this year. Twins, nice story, nice surprise. We'll see how they do as they get closer. Royals, here's the thing with the Royals. They did lose 3 in a row, but they have played 6-4 baseball. The Royals are a good team. Okay, they're playing with the same guys, the same core group that they did before. And they have a tough choice to make. So the next 2 weeks will vastly determine what happens. So the question is, do they keep the current team and say, let's go for it, They get in, you win a wild card spot? anything can happen. Maybe they make one last shot at the World Series. Maybe they can hope they can get that last championship. Or in 2 weeks, they get worse. We're just not very good. Maybe they have a 2-8 stretch. They're one of the worst teams in the league. At the deadline, they decide, you know what? It's over. Trade those guys off. Get some nice prospects in return. Or, if they make it to the playoffs, even if they lose in the wild card game, or they finish 2 games back at the wild card spot, a lot of those guys leave. It's over. Got nothing in return. Big rebuild coming. So, either way, one way or another, a rebuild is coming. Those guys are, 1, either going to leave, 2, are going to stay. That's the thing. And out west, we know the Astros are going to win the division. I mean, that race is over. Clearly over. Nothing more to mention. By the way, the Tigers are done. They don't have any good baseball anymore. Tigers done. The Astros, we know they're going to win the division. We know they're clearly better than any team in the American League. Clearly better than any team in the West. Keuchel's going to come back soon. They'll get Colin McHugh back. They've had some injuries to their pitching, and their pitching has looked shaky at times. But they have a killer offense. Altuve, Correa, Springer. There's a big 3. All anything above 300. 2 of them have 20-plus home runs. Great team. The Astros have good speed. They play very well managed. They got Chris Davinsky. They got a good bullpen. They may win the World Series. I don't know. Look, the Astros may make some moves at the deadline to make sure that they have everything under control. They're not a guaranteed World Series, as that is always the case in baseball. So we'll see what the Astros do. We'll see if they'll make any moves, and maybe in another episode we'll talk about them in more detail. So, looking at the wild card standings, so East Nationals, they're the 2 seed, Dodgers 1 seed, Brewers. Look at it. Look at the standings. The Cubs, Cardinals, and Braves. 7.5, 8 back. That race is pretty much over. Those will probably be our teams right there. And the East is very close. Red Sox leading the East. Cleveland Central, Astros West. Yankees and Rays are currently tied at the top wild card spot, while the Twins are a game out. Royals 1.5. Then the Angels, Rangers, Mariners, 4-4. Look, there's a lot of bad teams. The AL playoff race is not as strong. A lot of mediocre teams. So really, it could be interesting to see who gets the last spot. So, second half begins tomorrow. A lot to look forward to, and we'll see you next time on a future baseball episode again. We don't do baseball as consistently as other sports. I do watch it. Big fan of the game, but, we'll see if we get back on. There may be a lot of postseason talk. We'll try to come on there definitely a few more times before the season ends. So thank you for listening to this baseball edition.